Hello everyone, this is Joseph from the NoteFull team, and let's get right into it, right? So templates, do they really help you or not? So if you're feeling any degree of confusion about whether to use them or not, whether using them might hurt your score because graders will, hear it or read it in your essays and, imagine that you're not really putting your ideas together, that you're just following a formula, or there's a little frustration because maybe you've been trying to find the right templates to work and they don't, or you've been trying a lot of different things and you're just not noticing the improvement you want in your speaking and writing sections of the TOEFL. And, at least for me, I can understand how that can lead to annoyance. Because basically, there's always a challenge when you're hearing feedback that takes you in all different kinds of directions. So when we work with students, we know that sometimes you're coming from watching videos, and you can probably watch one video that's all about templates and how they'll help you. And then you can watch another video that says, don't use any templates. And they both seem logical and they both make sense. So you're like, what do I do? You might have friends that did or didn't use templates that got their dream score. So that creates more confusion. You might have people that say it's going to hurt you. Graders are listening for that and are going to, lower your score as a result of it, even if you do great overall on everything else. So we're really going to work together to clear all of this up. Because my goal and our goal here at NoteFull is that you have no more of that, that you really do experience the quickest, smoothest, most enjoyable journey to your dream score. So today we're going to work on creating understanding, clarity, and confidence when it comes to templates and how you're preparing yourself for success. Does that sound good? I'm going to do that focused on the speaking and the writing. Mainly the speaking, because what we're going to do first is we're going to learn about templates and how to use them in a way that's effective, with speaking question 1 as an example. So that's going to be fun. We're also going to relate this to a key study point so that you can keep this clarity for question number 1 of the speaking and have that awareness for all sections of the TOEFL so that you really have a balanced approach and you notice that after this video you really have clarity on how to study each week to get your dream score. Because remember, that's what it's all about. So I just want to let you know, longer video alert. So alert, alert, alert. So this video, I really want to take my time to work with you. I want this to be a deep, meaningful video, at least as much as it can be. That's similar to like a tutoring session you can expect. So we have a little smiley face there. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're eager. Let's jump right in. Here's a question that you can expect to get on TOEFL speaking, right? Question number 1. So let's go ahead and read it together. If a friend started a new job and was experiencing trouble with coworkers, what advice would you give your friend and why? Right? Use specific reasons and details to support your answer or your advice. So basic question, and let's talk about how are we actually going to use this question to learn about templates and whether or not they will work for you. So I want to talk about a word, context. So context is kind of like the background information. The first thing, the reason why you might hear templates do work and templates don't work is because it's balance. That means that for some people, they want to stay away from templates. For others, they want to use templates. It's not what we call a one-size-fits-all. There's no general rule at all. And we know this from, just to tell you, experience working with students who are all in different places and are benefited by different things. So in the context, when you deliver your answer to this question, there are kind of 4 basic skills that we work on in NoteFull that are really going to be the key to your delivering a top-level answer. The first one is the way you demonstrate your comprehension. So it's not the perfect word that we use, it's not a perfect word to use, but what comprehension deals with is your natural ability to use English. Like, I just called you on the phone and I just asked you, like this situation occurs and we have a conversation. I ask for your advice and you give it to me naturally and comfortably, right? That's comprehension, where you're just showing your own natural ability, your own natural command of the language and vocabulary, kind of building your skills from reading more, from talking to people, from watching movies, from learning just how to express yourself more comfortably. Then we have structure, and this is where we have this element of like TOEFL, right? Academic presentation of information in the speaking and writing. So your answer needs to have structure too. And that just means that there are parts of it. Like you have a beginning, a middle, and an end, so to speak. Units of information that make sense. You're making a point. So for this question, it's pretty basic. You know, you have your answer, your reason, your example, you repeat that, and your conclusion, right? You have structure, things that are related to one little piece. Then you have templates. So now you understand templates are basically phrases that support you in adding structure, because phrases basically help push you to have a structure. They're groups of words that create introductions and transitions as you move from one point to the next. So by themselves, they don't mean anything, but as a part of the 4 units that we're talking about, now you're presenting an answer that nobody can deny expresses the fluency enough to get the score that you're looking for. And the 4th thing are strategies. So strategies are basically the methods or techniques, as we define them, that allow you to kind of do a recipe to get a result. So a strategy might be, you know, how you prepare in your 15 seconds to deliver your answer. So now you have a bit of a sense, because what happens is that if you're high on comprehension, you have an easy, natural way to speak, you're comfortable, but you're not getting your dream score doing as well as you'd like, it probably is because you might not have as much structure as you need, so templates are going to help you. They're going to be critical to support you in having that structure. Now, let's say that you're very focused on strategies. You've memorized every template, you have perfect structure, but unfortunately your answer is not really showing the detail, the vocabulary, the argument for your point that shows that you're comfortable with the language. Then you want to work on comprehension. So let me give you a few examples to really clear this up, and I hope that makes sense, right? So you can see how for some people templates are critical, and for others you want to get rid of them. So here's the idea. One group of students, you can see what group you fall into, have what I would call a high level of comprehension. They speak well, they speak comfortably, they speak naturally, you know, they can talk about any point, and when they deliver answers, if they're not getting their dream score, if that's you, oftentimes it's because they're not as strong on structure, templates, and strategies. They're so comfortable that it's easy for them to just talk and then lose sight of the topic that they're talking about. So here's a quick example of what we hear, because we get a lot of reviews, we have a lot of tutoring sessions. So here's one example that shows what I would call, or what we would call at NoteFull, high comprehension, but missing what I would say is a strong structure, a strong kind of ability to go from one point to another. If a friend of mine was having trouble with coworkers, I think I would have my friend talk to his or her boss. And I think the main reason is because the boss can really give my friend good advice. Because it might be that the coworkers are having trouble because there's so much work that they have to do. So it has nothing to do with my friend. So his boss might be able to tell him that, and you know, he won't have any more issues with it because he knows it's not about him. I think another thing about a boss is, well, sometimes bosses, I think, can give good energy. Because I remember when I was working, when my boss, you know, would talk to me, he would always kind of give me some good feedback, some good energy, some good motivation. And so you see how, as I was speaking, you probably noticed that I started on track. I never really struggled so much for words, but you heard me a little repetitive here and there. Maybe in the second you heard me lose focus a little bit of this idea of advice for a friend experiencing trouble with coworkers at a new job. So if you notice, I never said anything about a new job. So when we hear this kind of answer, we as usual get excited because it shows, oh, this student has a great ability, but we just need to work on a few things. So we would say the comprehension is high, but the structure is pretty good. You know, you had an answer, you had kind of this unit and that unit, but we would say that templates would probably be something to definitely add, and a strategy for sure, because in a template, it's kind of like, make sure that you repeat every point of the question in your answer. And that kind of falls into templates and strategies, because we can make phrases to help with that. But what that'll do is, for this particular student, that student will sound a little bit maybe robotic, but then that student has a chance of getting the dream score because with templates, with a very focused technique, they will say things like the new job. The second reason will be more connected and it'll sound better. So for that kind of student, templates would be something positive among other things. Now, does that make sense? So you can see if that's you. So it's like really what's going to support you. So let's call that, students in category A. Now in category B, what we talk about with students is they actually don't demonstrate their great level of comprehension. They speak well, but once the timer starts, that speaking changes. But they have fantastic structure. They've been studying for hours. They know their template because they've memorized it. They know every strategy perfectly, but they're not getting their dream score. In this case, it sounds very regular in the sense of like one thing leads to another, but there's no point, there's no opinion, there are no words that really show that fluency. Now, one thing that I want to tell you too is the answer that I gave in A, that's going to earn about an 18 to a 22. Because when you have any skill that's strong, you're going to get an 18 to a 22 out of 30 on the speaking for the most part. So the same thing will happen for B, but to improve, to really show fluency so that you're getting higher scores of a 24, 26, 28 out of 30, you need all elements together. That's what shows fluency. That's what makes the graders know you deserve a top score. So let me give you an answer that we would call needs to work more on comprehension and less on structure and templates. Maybe get rid of them. So 45 seconds, and it might sound something like this. If a friend of mine started a new job and had trouble with coworkers, I would suggest that my friend talk to his boss for 2 reasons. The first reason is that the boss will give good advice. For example, when I was working, I had trouble with my coworkers and it was a new job and I didn't know what to do, so I talked to my boss and he gave me some good advice to communicate with them. The second reason is that when you talk with your boss, he can help you to feel better. For example, when I was working, I had a job at McDonald's, and I remember when I first started, I had trouble with coworkers, and as a result, and then the timer goes. So what this shows are some key elements that let us know this student has done well with structure, has done well with all these points of templates and strategies, but the element of really expressing a point and opinion comfortably isn't quite there. So what that means is this student, we would say, feel comfortable forgetting about templates. Maybe just completely ignoring them and just really communicate your idea. So for this student to help them get more natural and comfortable, we would probably brainstorm. So in a tutoring session or a review or in an email, we would say to you and others, what do you think about when you think about a new job? And have a little bit of a conversation, loosen up a little bit. What do you think about coworkers? So you see how we say, what do you think about? Just let the words flow. So what we're talking about is a balance. And that's what makes the TOEFL tough to improve on. There are some people who have everything at a very high level, and so they can go to the TOEFL and get their dream score on the first try. That can totally be you, and I hope this video helps you to do that. For others, it's a journey, and that's what these videos are meant for. If it's a journey, if it were easy, you would have done it already. So you want to kind of respect, yeah, there are all these there is a lot that I have to balance. But now I hope you see, 4 things, and you have clarity on how to do it. So for student A, we would say you have excellent flow. You seem to be going from one idea to the other really well, but we need more templates. We need more structure, more strategies. That's a way to help you among other things we teach. For student B, you notice that the structure, the template, everything is really strong, but the natural flow of communicating isn't quite there. So we would work on brainstorming, just comprehension, just really understanding the question and talking about it. So now, what does it sound like when everything comes together? Let me go ahead and give you an example of that to the best of my ability. If a friend of mine started a new job and was having trouble with coworkers, my main advice would be for her to talk to her boss. And the first reason is that I think a boss can really give great advice in this situation. My friend is a new hire, so she doesn't know the coworkers well. If she talks to her boss, the boss might give an idea of the coworkers' personalities and how to interact with them to make things more comfortable. The second reason is I think she would just feel more comfortable having someone to talk to. I think a boss usually has a little bit more skill in interacting with people and understanding people. So if she expressed her problem, she'd just probably feel better to be understood and as a result interact better. And that's why I make that suggestion. All right, so first thing I want to do is remind you that nobody's perfect. Every answer can be better. And so you might have heard that and picked things and said, oh, it can be like this or it can be like that. Or you might say to yourself, wow, you know, that's good. Whatever your evaluation is, just know that you're capable of doing that. And you can do even better when you train and practice in putting all of these things together in a way that fits you. You notice that I really just let my comprehension go. I really just express myself. And comprehension, that natural way of speaking, especially for a top score, when you want to get above a 22, like a 24, 26, or 28 out of 30, especially that magic 26 on the speaking that many are looking for, you know, that's really what's going to put you in that position because it shows your comfort with the language. A couple things with my answer. I decided not to give too many details. I spoke generally. I didn't give examples. One reason is just naturally, this is a hypothetical situation, meaning it's a pretend. So I continued that idea of just kind of pretending if this situation occurred in general, what I expect would be helpful from my advice. So you notice how it's just kind of naturally following the flow of the question. Now I hope you found this helpful because the next thing that I want to talk about is something that we see that's very common. You might be saying to yourself, well, what if I don't get a question that's about experience that I have? You know, what if I get this kind of question or what if I get that kind of question? If that's you right now, then the main thing I would say is you're probably a little over-focused on structure, templates, and strategies. So I would have you reduce your focus on this and increase your focus on just allowing your comprehension to shine, focusing on your natural communication skills. Because if you're dependent on something looking the way you need it to look in order to feel comfortable, that means you are too focused on this specific strategy for this specific question. So again, that's why it's important to actually go to our study point because this is tough to do on your own. And that's why we say if you need to improve more than 2 points on any section, need to improve more than 8 points overall, have a minimum TOEFL score you must get, or are stuck with the same score on any section, if any of these apply to you, then you're on a journey where this video is good help, but you probably need even more support. And that's why we talk about the next study point. So we talked about question number 1. I hope you found it helpful. Now it's time for us to get into how do you keep this clarity from this video? How do you know what you need to do? You want to make sure to pick and stick with the main balanced TOEFL training source. That's going to eliminate the problem of whether or not you want to use templates, of how to improve your comprehension, all of that. So let's talk about that specifically. So first you want to pick. So essentially what that means is allowing yourself to trust your decision and really choose among the many options there are your source for TOEFL success, what you're mainly going to rely on. The next thing you want to do is stick with. So stick with is kind of an idiomatic expression that means stay connected to. Because when you study, especially if you're on a journey, you're going to notice your progress is something like this. It's not going to be a straight line going up. There are going to be ups and downs. So the reason is that when you learn something new, for example, you need to build comprehension. So that means you need to get comfortable doing something you weren't doing before. Naturally, that's going to be a little awkward and uncomfortable. Then you're going to get used to it and experience the improvement. And then when you work on the next thing, the number 2 thing, it's the same habit. It's the same process. You'll be a little uncomfortable, things will go down, and then you'll go up. So a lot of times what happens is that students, when they feel a little discomfort, they kind of say, I gotta change the template, I gotta change the strategy, I gotta change the source. And that's something that keeps you in this circle of consistently not developing because you're constantly jumping instead of sticking with something so that you can benefit and then get comfortable and improve. Does that make sense? We've been talking a lot, and it's tough in these videos because I really want it to be clear to you. So I hope you can maybe review in the video, post any questions that you have, and we're going to talk about how to reach out to us at the end of the video too, because it's all about helping you succeed. The next thing is we say you want to pick a main source. It's for the same reason. You want to use more than one source. There's nothing wrong with that. But because every source will say something a little different, right? So maybe you have A, B, C, and D. Pick your main source, A, so that when other sources say something different, you can kind of understand it and think about it, adjust for your balance, but rely on your main source because it can be confusing when you switch things, especially when you're on the process of improvement. And balanced. Balanced is so critical. And why do we say that? Because when we talk about a balanced TOEFL training source, it means what we just discussed. You want something that introduces comprehension, strategies, structure, and templates in how you learn each section. That way, your balanced approach helps you so that if you're the student who needs more work with templates, you have that. If you're a student who needs more work with comprehension, just being natural in the way you communicate, you get that too. The other reason why this is important is because when you pick and stick with the main balanced TOEFL training source, through your journey, the training material you can trust has that. When you email with your questions, you get that kind of feedback that can give you that insight. So it's like, oh, let's stop focusing on templates. That's the last thing we need. And let's completely focus on comprehension. And reviews and tutorings will be in that way too. So you really always get that approach that's specific to you. And in your situation, this is what you need. And so what I want to do is make sure that we stay connected. So don't forget, right on the lower right-hand side of the video, click subscribe so that you can get our next video. It's going to focus on the next study point and how to apply it so you improve on the reading. In addition, I want to invite you to click to join us because we have a free trial program for you. If you click on the video or if you click on the link below the video, you can immediately go to our course. It'll take you about 4 to 8 hours to complete on every section of the TOEFL. Build up your skills so that you know everything about the TOEFL, all the critical tips so that you have the best experience possible when you take it in your test center. You'll learn the TOEFL skills to avoid losing points, like what we discussed here, over-focusing on one element instead of another. You'll master the basics of each section. So it has 16 pages of content and another hour and a half of video tutorials to help you. So it would be great to have you as a part of that. That way we can keep connected. Remember, it puts 10 years of experience helping over 10,000 students get their dream score. So it will help you too. We're here to help you every step of the way. All right, so now it's time to review. Remember, this was the third video in a series of 16. So the first video, to make sure that you're on track to have the quickest, smoothest, most enjoyable journey possible to your dream TOEFL score, is know your current level. That way you have a clear idea of what to focus on to get to the next level to get your dream score. Then we talked about get the material you trust. This way you're really focusing on content that's based on experience and success, so you can trust it, give your energy to it, invest your time in it, and get a return on that. And today, we said pick and stick with the main and balanced, right? Balanced TOEFL training source. We talked about those 4 things you want to balance. Comprehension skills, strategy, structure, templates. It applies for every section of the TOEFL. We just talked about the speaking for now. So final question for you. Did we succeed? I hope so. We did our best, but we can always do better to get you one step closer on the quickest, smoothest, most enjoyable journey, right? Because we're wanting to improve those 2 points on a section, 8 points, get the minimum score, get unstuck possible to your dream score, which is coming with us here at NoteFull. We're here for you. So remember, this is me, Joseph, from the NoteFull team. This is video 3 of 16. More coming. Hope you both subscribe, join the site, but no matter what, we'll be in touch again. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.